Basically today what we'll be doing is preparing our dressing for our hot butter injected chili sauce chicken tenders. So basically we're going to be blanching celery, and then we're going to be dehydrating it, and then putting it in a food processor to get all the moisture out, and then we're going to be adding that processed celery, which is starting from stretch celery, basically from the produce section. We'll be adding that into a already prepared blue cheese salad dressing. That way I don't like the celery on the side because of the large chunks and the crunchiness of it, so I'd rather have it incorporated into the dressing. So I'm going to be creating this dish today. See how it goes along with our Super Bowl treats. So I'll show you how to make that here in just a second. Okay, first of all, what you're going to want to do is get your celery, make sure it's clean, and then we're just going to cut some off. I'm going to cut the tips of this off, basically, and be blanching this portion of the celery up here. Okay. And all these together would probably be equivalent to about 1.5 celery stalks all together. And what we're going to do is basically blanch these in hot boiling water that we have preparing now. And then we're going to put those in the oven and dehydrate them, or dry them out basically. And then we're going to put them in the food processor and then add them to our blue cheese salad dressing, which we're going to make about an 8-ounce cup of that. Okay, so we have our water boiling. And then we're just going to go ahead, and if this makes too much celery, we'll be able to tell once it cooks down a little bit. And you don't want this to cook to where it's really mushy. Just want to blanch it basically to get it to where it's not quite as crispy as it is in its original state, but just enough it'll probably lighten up a bit in color. And then we'll take that out, and then we'll finish the process. Start with dehydrating it, which will be putting it in the oven. When you dehydrate something like this without a dehydrator, you want to put it in the oven on the lowest setting, usually for at least a couple of hours. Basically what it'll do is dry out all of the moisture in it, and it will act, your oven can act as a food dehydrator. I don't do this very often, so we'll see how it goes with the celery because it does have quite a bit of moisture. Now I could also add this to the food processor first, which is thinking about doing that. We'll see how it is after it's blanched, and then we'll go from there. Okay, now as you can see, this has only been in the boiling water for a few minutes. So what we'll do is just take one out. As you can see, the leaves are very limp now. We'll go ahead and just stick a knife in there and see. You want the knife to just barely go through there. This one is not as firm, or this one is more firm, I should say, than this one here. You can kind of get in on that there. Let's see. You can see this, the easiness of this going in right there. I'm just barely pushing that versus this here. So it even made a little noise. So it'll be okay to just leave them in there both for a few more minutes. Just want to make sure those are not mushy soft, but blanched basically is just a little softer than they would be if you were to just eat them raw on salads or with peanut butter or something like that. You don't want them to be that crunchy. So we'll go ahead and do that. As I was saying, I'm going to go ahead and process these in the food processor once they come out of the boiling water. And now if you don't have a food processor, I would suggest dehydrating these first, putting them in the oven, like I said, on the lowest setting. My lowest setting on mine is 150. If you have a gas stove, you can adjust it accordingly. And leave it in there on a cookie sheet or just a pie pan or something like that on that very low setting for at least 2 hours. And you basically will come back and check on this in a few hours to see exactly how dry it is. I'll leave one out, and I'm going to put the other in the food processor. Another thing you could do is when these come out and they cool, you can put them in the refrigerator on in a bowl or something, let them cool off all the way. You could also mince them per se. It's very hard to mince something. You can also maybe use a grater if it was firm enough, but I don't think these are going to be firm enough to grate. So if you do some very fine cutting, you can mince these yourself, then put them into the oven, and that will, if you do them minced or processed, I would put them in there for an hour, say 45 minutes to an hour, just enough. You don't want them crunchy, but just enough to know that they're dry. So there's certain different ways you can do this if you don't have that food processor, to keep from just putting these stalks in the oven, which will take at least 2 hours if they're whole like that. Okay, so we'll go ahead and get these out and get these ready to go in our processor. And like I say, I'm going to leave one out, and just to see how long it takes it to dry out, I'm going to put it in the oven and start dehydrating it immediately. Okay, so we went ahead and put that in the food processor, and as you see, when that comes out, that's how it looks. And we're just going to dehydrate it from this state here. And that gets, if you see any large strings in there, make sure you get those out, because celery can be a bit stringy from the fibers that are in that particular vegetable. Okay. Alright, so we got that out good enough. There's a few pieces in there. Now this is still pretty hot, so, but basically it's very moist, as you can see, quite a bit of moisture in there, so that's why we need to dehydrate it. You can't put this in your dressing here, which is what we'll be using, the blue cheese light wishbone. You can't put that in there that moist, otherwise you're going to have a very runny type of salad dressing, and we don't want to be dipping our snacks in a runny dressing. So that's why we're going to dehydrate this in the oven and see how it comes out, and then we will add it to our dressing after that. So I'll check back with you. I'm going to put this in there on 150 for about an hour. Check it. If it's still not dry enough, put it in there longer. What you don't want to do is turn your oven up to try to make it dry fast, because then you can possibly burn the celery. If the moisture comes out of it too fast, it will burn and be very crunchy, and you don't want to put it in your salad dressing like that. You also don't want to use dry celery seed or anything like that. You will not get the same flavor. And this here is our dehydrated celery. If you remember how that looked at first, and it's a bit crunchy but not too dry, you can just kind of crumble it up a little bit. But when this goes into the dressing, it's going to soften up. So what we'll do, it's almost like a dry celery, but it'll taste a lot fresher. We're just going to scrape that off of there and then just put this on the plate. Little saucer there. And like I said again, it's almost like a dry celery, but it's not. It'll be a lot tastier, and it'll mix in better with that dressing. Blue cheese dressing we're going to put in there. Okay, so there we go. That's how that looks. Get a close up. It's dehydrated celery. And basically what we're going to do here is make about 8 ounces of that dressing. Tear that out. Okay, so we'll want 8 ounces, and you're probably wondering why I'm doing this the day before the Super Bowl. Well, actually, it's because this will flavor a lot better. I'm one of those people that are big on flavor, and it'll taste a lot better eating it the next day. There's 5 ounces. Okay, I'll go a little under 8 ounces with that. I don't want that to overflow. This is a 16-ounce bottle. I beg to differ by this being only 6.8 ounces that I poured in there. Okay, and then there's our celery again, and we're just going to sprinkle that in there. Looks like some nice pretty greens there. We'll Looks like some other kind of greens, but we're not going to go there. Okay. And let's see, we'll just get a spoon and just fold those dehydrated celery in there. And this is going to sit overnight, so it's going to flavor in with that blue cheese dressing. And it should have a nice blue cheese celery taste tomorrow for the big football game. Alright, so there we have it. Our dehydrated celery blue cheese light dressing. Let that sit overnight and that should be good to go. And you can do this if you don't like the big chunks of celery. This is going to go along good with our hot sauce butter injected chili sauce chicken tenders. We're going to use this as a dipping sauce actually. So that'll kind of cool things off without having to take a bite of a piece of celery. Celery's already in there and it'll have a subtle celery taste in the blue cheese dressing. Okay, now what we're going to do here is prepare, or I should say cook, our hot butter injected chicken breasts that we put together earlier in the week, and I froze them, so we just have 2. And let's see, so we just got 2 servings, 2 to 3 servings there, depending on, probably 3 servings, because I'm not going to eat both of those, and it'll probably be so many strips that I do eat. Okay, so what we're going to do is leave those like this and just make a pocket, and they're already seasoned. They already have been injected with the light butter and the Mexican hot sauce, and we're just going to make a pocket. Make sure this is covered well. And you don't need to put any spray on the foil because we did inject them with butter, so all of that will help with the cooking. And we're going to bake these until they get done for about 20 to 30 minutes or so. Okay, and here we have our chicken breasts that's done. Got one there and one there, and those are nice and done. Now what we'll do, let's go ahead and cut these. I'm going to cut these into tenders, and I'm just going to take a fork and cut these like this. You can cut them as thick or thin as you want. I'm cutting mine like that. And it'll be about, looks like about 4 tenders per piece of chicken there, per breast. Okay, and I'm going to show you the insides of this, how this looks. It's very nice and juicy. You can see that there. You can see the coloring of our butter and our hot sauce in there. And this made a nice buttery brine that's in that foil. And actually I'm going to scoop a little bit of that, which is fine to do because it is cooked. Scoop a little bit of our brine in there with our chili sauce. Okay. And then all I'm going to do is take this and zoom out a little bit on that. There we go. And I'm just going to do 2 at a time, like I said. Just put them in there, and I'm going to be having these for dinner tonight. Put those in there and get them nice and coated. So I'm going to move my foil over here out of the way, what we cooked with there. Get them nice and coated there. They'll look like this. And I'm just going to set those back on a pan here. Just in a little pie pan. Nice and coated. You want that all over those, like that. And again, there's no need to spray these. And these other ones that I'm doing are just going to go in some more foil. I'll put those in there and just let those heat up tomorrow. So basically there you have it. We'll have just 2 there that I'm putting in the oven. And I'm going to have that with some other items for dinner tonight. But basically there you have it. The chicken tender, hot butter injected, chili sauce, chicken breasts. There you have it. And those on game day, you just want to warm those up. You don't have to do a whole lot to them because they are cooked already. I didn't cook them to like a dryness. They were very, very moist. So you only want to cook them about 15, maybe 20 minutes at the most. And you see how moist those are. And what we're going to do here is pour our chili sauce. This is our Frank's Red Hot sweet chili dipping sauce. We're just going to pour that in there. This is going to be about 3 tablespoons is what I'm just going to estimate. You can measure it out if you're not good with the naked eye. And what we're going to do when I get those breasts out of the oven, I'm just going to cut those up and go 2 tenders at a time in there and just kind of turn them. And then those will be ready to go for tomorrow also. I'm going to let those sit, and then those I'll just warm up tomorrow on game day because I'm going to have some of those to eat actually today too for dinner. Okay, you're probably wondering what's going on with the ribeye taco shooters. Well, we're about to get them started too. We're just going to spray these whole wheat corn tortillas. Spray those with just a cooking spray. And you can do this instead. I want them to be have less fat in them than putting them in cooking oil. You can put them in cooking oil also too. And what we're going to do is spray those, put them in the microwave for about 20 seconds to get them hot. Then we're going to roll our meat up in there. And you also want to work with meat that's fairly warm. So our ribeye steak taco seasoned meat, we're going to warm that up for about a minute in the microwave because it's easier to work with meat when it's hot. Rolling these up or warm and then cold. Okay, basically we have this set up like a little station here, and what we're going to do is put our meat. See, I'll take those out of there. Put our meat in the taco, or put our taco meat in the shells actually, is what we're going to do. Get that oil off of there, trying to get some of that oil off the counter there so this stuff doesn't slide. Okay, so basically, I guess we'll rearrange this. And we got some cheese going on over here also with our taco meat. So basically, you're just going to want to put some in there. It's so much easier to work with this when it's warm. It's not hot, it's just warm. And I'm being a carnivore, as usual. And I made this 16-ounce ribeye. It's going to make about 4 of these, so a nice little chunk of meat there. A little cheese going on. That's 3 ounces of shredded, finely shredded, I should say, cheese. Okay. And you're going to want to make sure you stuff those babies in there. Just kind of do them like this. Stuff them in there and roll. Stuff and roll. And you want to hold those so your filling doesn't fall out. Just like so. Okay, they should look like this. And then I'm going to be putting those in here, and I'm going to show you, we're going to toothpick those there at the end and tighten them up a bit. Here's the one. And I won't show you how I do all these. I just wanted you to see how I'm doing one. And as I said, it's 16 ounces of ribeye. Ground up pretty well. I had a meat grinder though. If you don't have a meat grinder, you got to do some hellified chopping before you prepare these. Otherwise you're going to have big chunks of meat and it may not be as tender as you want it. So okay, so we're going to roll this baby up like so and just kind of push that in there. And we'll be back and I'll show you how I'm going to toothpick those and get those ready to go for tomorrow also. Okay, I want to show you this here. We got these here shooters all ready to go but I want to show you exactly how I do one of these. Put the getting the toothpicks in there as you're working with this meat and this cheese. So we're gonna get, and this here baby here is gonna be hella big, but I think I should be able to get this in there. We probably won't use all that cheese, and this was, like I say, only 3 ounces of cheese, and I probably could have went with 2 from the looks of things. So if you get your meat kind of moist and warm a little bit, you can kind of work with it like this, and you're just going to want to fold it like so. Fold and push, just kind of mold it. Scrape your cheese in there. And you got some toothpicks broken up over here. I don't know if you can see those toothpicks there, but they're already broken up, ready to go. And I'm just folding this. As you can see, nothing's coming out. You want to make sure you got them sides. This is kind of messy, so if you don't want to get your hands dirty, I don't suggest you do this. Okay, there we go. Just flip it, make it a little snugger. There we go. And then just take your toothpicks. I always start with 1 in the middle, working out on the ends like that, butt out. There we go. Then you can just push your meat in there like that. Okay, so we got 4 taquito like type taco ribeye shooters ready to go for tomorrow. All we got to do is pop these babies in the oven. And you can also, if you have the patience, which I don't have much of, you can also cook these on the stove, but you got to be very careful so they don't come loose. But I suggest, since we've sprayed them down with oil, as you can see, it's got the meat in there. They're tucked good. They're not going to come loose. You want to spray them down. It's real good with oil though, and then heat those in the microwave. Otherwise, they're going to be hard to work with, and they may break on you. So you want to work with a warm tortilla and warm meat. It doesn't have to be hot, just warm enough, because these are just going to go in the refrigerator. We're not going to refreeze these. You don't want to freeze unthaw, nothing like that. But these will be fine because they're going to be getting cooked in less than 24 hours. So these will go in the refrigerator. 4 nice big ones all ready to go. Look at them babies. They are just full. And that we're going to have the dipping sauce for this will pretty much just be a con queso salsa dip. Or you can just eat them just like they are. But I'm a dipping type person. So there you have it. See you at the game tomorrow. And here we have our cream cheese bacon cheddar potato skins all ready to go in the oven for tomorrow. All we'll have to do is just pop them babies in the oven, and those are frozen. As you can see, they're nice and frozen, stay together well. And those are going to sit in the freezer covered up, and then we'll uncover them and put them in the oven tomorrow. They'll be all ready to go. I'm making this a quick, snappy game day preparation by having everything done, and everything will still be just as tasty as if it were just made.